All right, DJ Leroy is Monday night in the city. I have cranked up the drones. I put extra batteries in, and we're we're scanning the landscape for opportunity.
Night Watchman, what do you know, my man? And
All
of
right.
course, of course, my wife, she's in the shot just a bit, but hey, I know she didn't know. Anyway, yes, that was live, my dear. She said
Live
hello.
TV, live TV,
Yes,
always interesting.
always.
So we got a good show. We got a couple of great guests with us. We got the Double G OG Glenn Gilliam back here in the Soul Lounge.
Hey, just let me understand. Does that brother have like a free anytime pass? Just let me know. I just want to know.
Well, because we know that he's ready to go. I'm not sure
Oh,
about you, but I know
and
Glenn's ready to drop a show, especially after a weekend full of sports. Yeah.
and you know what? I love the fact that he does come on the show and he respects the protocol. So the CDC has consulted with him.
Yeah, there you go.
All
And
right.
then we got long-time listener, first-time guest, Mr. Keith Watson,
Oh,
aka K Dub.
well, hold it now.
Yeah.
Night Watchman, did you sure enough go raid the Alamo? How'd you get this brother here from Texas? What's going
Listen,
on
first of all,
oh
Houston radio
man.
personality from KPFT, The Groove, on
Mm,
also on Monday nights in Houston. So people who
okay.
are listening to this show afterwards, you can check them out. They're on at 1 o'clock in the morning in our time zone, but it's worth staying up to. So welcome to the Soul Lounge.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
thank you, fellas.
Hey.
Oh, by the way, you can check us on the kpft.org archives for all the people who want to hear the
Ah.
groove that don't want to stay up late. We always have the last month of shows in the archive. You know, we love
let me just
our
say,
folks at the Soul
I'm
Line.
sorry, Keith. Go ahead, Keith. Shoot. I'm sorry.
No, was that you, Double G? What were you about to say?
I was just going to say, I know this is going to be up on YouTube. I also have a YouTube channel, Real Dreams
Oh,
TV. If you get a chance,
oh,
check it.
oh.
Hey,
Curtis
all
is
right.
on there. We're gonna be putting more stuff on there. Curtis is on there. Anyway.
All right,
Okay.
so Real
Proceed.
Dreams, you want to spell that out for us? Because I know y'all people
yeah,
always
sorry.
like to.
It's
Hmm?
it's Real REEL, and
Mm-hmm.
that's Dreams with a Z.
Ah,
Trying to
okay.
get
Yep.
flavor in there.
That's right.
Nice.
Get the series right, phonetic spelling. That's right. You got it. So you know the thing that Night Watchman, did you now?
Is that correct?
There you go. Oh, you're right on top. That's why you're the executive producer. You're right on
You
Wow,
top.
That's
know
that's
it.
right.
You
That's
know
amazing
it. You
right.
know it. That's
I would have had that in advance. I didn't know, but I did have Mr. Watson. I got all your particulars up there too.
Oh yeah, there it is.
excellent. Excellent.
All right, so we had a busy weekend sports wise. What do we want to jump into first?
Well, Double G, tell me this. What about you would definitely had Pete Meach and Lewis way back. So with him, of course, getting this poll and getting the three stop and starts. What do you think? You want to take that?
Yeah, I mean, sure. The best part of the race today actually came at the podium.
Set
when
it
he
up for
won,
those
but,
who don't know who Lewis was.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yes, set it up, Glenn.
Right. I know we've had a few discussions on this, but yeah, for those who are uninitiated, Formula One, which is a motorsports, which is needless to say a step up from NASCAR to Indy. Formula One is kind of at the top of the heap in terms of motorsports, and Lewis Hamilton is the only black driver in the sport, and has been, and with won't be the last, because he is making serious within this move, social justice movement, to sport. He's trying to bring diversity to it, and he has been world champion. Has won now 6 times, which is just one below the all-time winner in the sport, Michael Schumacher, at 7, and he's on his way to winning in 7 particular season and every record there is to it. So he won on a new track. They're still in Italy, and Mugello is a Tuscany track, and it's really beautiful countryside and all of that. But this is a track that's usually for MotoGP, for motorcycles. But it was a track that all the drivers really love because it's very challenging. But he won the pole on Saturday, on yesterday, and it was a crazy race. The field didn't make it to the end.
Yeah,
it was unfortunately a couple of crashes, then restarts, then another restart. So and those are all difficult. I mean, I'd love at some point when we get a chance to actually delve into what goes into how difficult these cars are to drive and what's required to really be at the top of the game. But Lewis has been the standard there for now over 10 years. He drives for Mercedes AMG, and they have been instructors who've won the last 6 years in a row. And like I say, they've had a shortened season because of COVID. They usually have 21 races. This year will be more like 17, maybe 18, but they're going to new sites as well. And without taking up much more time on it, is doing an N race versus 2 F1.
Night Watchman, did we lose him?
Yeah, I think he's fading a little bit. So,
Okay.
but he looks good.
So,
For the most part.
so Keith, you see what happens when we talk about F1? It just takes you to
It
another realm.
just shuts down. I love Lewis Hamilton. He's doing some big things out there in the F1 world, and and he's really taking he's taking his platform inside of a sport that really doesn't want to acknowledge the platform, but they have to, because he's dominating their sport and has been for several years now.
You got that right.
So whereas I think if it were any other person, they would have a ability to downplay it or shut it down. But because he's winning so much, and every time he wins, he's got the mask on, he's got the Black Lives Matter shirt, he's talking about it, he's pointing out the inequalities and the positions that people are taking inside of his sport that really need to be addressed and looked at. So whether it's Mario Andretti or any of these other people who are legendary figures in that sport, and he's holding them to account for antiquated thinking and a need to come to the table and have a real discussion, instead of trying to have the usual kind of, well, this isn't the time or the place to have that talk, and all of these different things that they've used previously that are no longer, going to work in this environment.
Absolutely. And
big shout out to him.
That is so true, because I did see Mario Andretti having a little difficulty understanding Lewis speaking out. Maybe thinking that we're in some type of post-racial society. And Keith, as you know, that's far from the case.
Right. I think the thing is what made Mario Andretti's stance so uncomfortable is that what he was implying was that, well, why are you saying anything, Lewis? You have everything. You have everything going for you. People love you. Why are you bringing this negativity when we all love you? And he made a point to point out that it's not about me.
Right.
It's about the people who look like me.
Yeah.
It's about the people who don't get love 24 hours a day because of what they do for a living. And his follow-up just it kind of fell apart because he wasn't prepared to have that level of thought go into the conversation.
Got it.
And I think whether it's the president of F1 or Mario, you've seen these people come out and make these statements where they think that they sound intelligent and they think they're speaking for a majority, and they're getting rebuffed and realizing that the bottom line is they don't speak for the majority anymore. There are a lot of people who understand that there have been inequalities, and just because we've overcome them doesn't make them okay.
Exactly.
And so for him to be able to enforce that level of conversation across the water, where I would say that they're probably less inclined to have this conversation than even we are.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's doing something phenomenal and doing it while winning. I mean, he's dominating the F1 circuit.
Absolutely. And you're so right, Keith. If he did not have that particular platform, you know, nobody would have even paid attention. But
Right.
I'm so impressed with him. And then, of course, yesterday's Open winner, Naomi Osaka.
Yeah.
Again, yes, taking the lead and being outspoken for social justice, and then winning, and then just
winning, and
it was
Right.
and very
tough
humble,
match. Tough match.
in terms of tough match. No doubt she came from behind, but also in terms of utilizing her platform, not a braggadocious, a very humble, soft-spoken young lady who's basically just which then allows her, disarms, I think, the general public to see and listen in on what she's talking about. You know,
Right.
What's up, Double G? You back with us or what?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I hope I'm back. I had to switch devices, guys. I don't know what was going on. I was losing power with my other one, and audio wasn't coming across at all. So, Curtis, repeat everything you just said.
Well, we'll get to it. As a matter of fact, I mean, Keith had a beautiful and in-depth analysis of Lewis and utilizing his platform. So that was very, very thankful for that.
Right.
And then
we segued into talking about Naomi also doing the same thing, and just a little bit about her historic win this weekend.
Oh, with Naomi?
Yes, yeah. It's you want to jump in there? I mean,
I'm losing audio.
Okay.
Well, one thing I do think that you know, we can kind of, you know, circle back and look, and I think we can say definitively that the shut up and dribble era is over.
That's over.
Thank God.
Laura
it's
Ingraham,
done.
you shut up and get a new show, okay?
Right.
No,
How about that?
Don't get a new show, please.
Right. Go do whatever you do when you get your voice taken from you.
Yeah.
All right. So, you know, I'm definitely, you know, if there's anything that I feel strongly about it, that, you know, you have, you know, not just anybody, you have leaders of their sports, and you have leaders of teams, and, you know, that are speaking out forcefully at probably what would have been considered an inopportune time at any other point in history before now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, openly discouraged and shunned and looked down upon. So the fact that, you know, whether it's the Milwaukee Bucks or whether it's the ladies from the WNBA, or, you know, you've got hockey players who are coming out and saying, we, even in our traditionally white sport, we've got to have a better response than what we're having. And so just the fact that these kinds of conversations are happening instead of the usual conversations, which, you know, basically amount to, you know, you guys are overreacting, you know, everybody goes through it, you guys aren't any different from us, and or whatever the excuses are to kind of downplay the conversation. It's like the fact that those conversations are dead is, you know, it's a move forward.
Absolutely. So
we still have knucklehead announcers like Skip Bayless, who comes at Dak Prescott for basically opening up about the challenges he's been facing in his personal life, and as if to say that as the quarterback of, and I won't even call him America's team because I didn't vote for him. You know, but that whole idea that because he's the quarterback of the Cowboys, that he should not show any vulnerability, as if that meant something, you know, in the game. And he was obviously roundly criticized for that, but it's just we're still dealing with a level of ignorance in some of the pundits in the sport that we still need to get a few of them, you know, away from the broadcast chair.
That's for sure. Now, Keith, of course,
yes,
you being down there in Texas. Now, the whole thing, as we do know, America's team, Dallas, has been out there for a long time. But tell me, is there really, really some serious excitement behind the Texans?
Honestly,
Oh, you would go there, Curtis. You
no.
know.
There's not a lot. We're happy for
Oh,
Deshaun
you
Watson.
serious?
We're happy for Deshaun Watson. We're glad that he's gotten compensated, and we're glad that he, at least has put the organization in a place to where 4 years from now they're going to have to come back again and give him some more money.
Okay.
So we're happy about that. Other than that,
well, let me just say, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I didn't say. Other than that, we're facing some issues that I think are coming to a head in this season, and hopefully there'll be some resolution.
Okay.
We have a coach GM situation with Bill O'Brien that has basically led him to, dump franchise players on a pretty much an annual basis in return for nothing. And so the football, Houston is a football town.
Yep.
And they're savvy and they understand the nuances and what goes into building, a quality football team. And so, at this point for us to see franchise level talent just walk away for nothing, whether it's Drain Brown or Jadeveon Clowney or DeAndre Hopkins, we had, we could go on down the line. It's been more than that. But at the end of the day, it's like he has to put up or shut up now because it's been his way or the highway. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, your highway is pretty much reaching the end of the road. If there's no trophy at the end of it, if there's no pot of gold at the end of it, you're going to have to take it somewhere else.
Got it.
And I think the city has, we understand that we can't demand that now because, okay, obviously the man's under contract. They've just re-upped with, a lifetime talent in Deshaun Watson. Mm-hmm. So there is that, I guess, bottom line hope that something could happen, but there certainly is a segment of our community is looking towards a 5-11, a 5-11, or a 7-9 season ahead of us.
Wow.
Yeah.
Let me just say, as a staunch, I just got to say, I'm sorry, Curtis. I just got to jump in and say, as somebody who listens to way too much Houston sports. I mean, I've got probably 4 or 5 guys that I listen to down in Houston, and I think there's a lot of love and desire, obviously, for the team to do well, as Kay has alluded to quite eloquently. Everything really comes down to people's evaluation of who Bill O'Brien is as a real coach who could lead to a Super Bowl, and now more importantly, as someone who can make really critical personnel decisions. And I think the issue is on both ends, we've just seen some things that give us pause and say, this is not what we would like from a team who has secured what, in my opinion, is definitely a transcendent player. I think he's the best quarterback in the league. And I think given all of the top quarterbacks, if you gave them equal organizations, head coaches, personnel, I think he would come out as a class above. But that's not the world we live in. And unfortunately, Bill O'Brien has had, I think, issues with people he may consider to be have character issues, but those, unfortunately, are not reasons to unload them. Even though he thinks he's Bill Belichick and can do that, and still, put together a team that has a chance to be successful. They haven't been right on the defensive side for a while. It hasn't been a problem scoring points, but the defense didn't really get better. I mean, yes, there's been improvement in the backfield as far as the D-backs are concerned. I think they've been playing together and playing better as a group. They've made some paints to folks. Zach Cunningham, important, compensated, but as Kay said, lose a Jadeveon Clowney, you get a Dwayne Brown. You lose these really trench players who had their own issues with Bill O'Brien. I mean, and the politics that kind of he presented, and even the organization to the extent of what the McNairs. I think people had some issues weren't, to me, a priority to move them out of the organization. But consequently, because those moves were made, other players see that and say, do I want to spend my time there? Do I want to sign up for a team that may be moving players before their time or not willing to compensate them appropriately? DeAndre Hopkins, Arizona, they beat the defending NFC champs today. I mean, this is a team that, with Kyler Murray, who's a offensive player of the year, is expected to do much better, but to beat the San Francisco 49ers out the gate, and they had their whole team return, that just goes to show you. And DeAndre was a pivotal part of that game. So, and people also, I don't know if it can be a direct correlation, but that Thursday night game loss to KC, a lot of people saw, unfortunately, some incongruence because DeAndre Hopkins wasn't there. Now, I think the main problem is Tim Kelly is a mini Bill O'Brien, who's the offensive coordinator. So I don't know if there's going to be any new wrinkles that really make a difference utilizing what we have, which is really great personnel. And I'll just say this. I had my own skepticism about David Johnson. He was the star of that game offensively. I mean, he got the touches. For the first touch. And quite.
Night Watchman, did we lose him again?
I think we got Captain Freeze.
Yes.
Well, I think
but let's also talk about what's going on with the Rockets.
Oh man!
Boy.
Really
I'm sorry. We have to talk about it.
Okay,
so Keith, here's I'm throwing it out there. Always a bridesmaid, never a bride. What's going to happen, man? Talk to me.
Okay, let's just start from the very top. Okay, so the owner, Mr. Tillman Fertitta, is facing a severe economic crunch right now with his main business, which is the Landry's restaurant empire.
Oh, wow.
And also the casino and UFC. So he's already had before all this started going, he was already crying about having to pay the luxury tax next year because of the loss of income from the stadium, not from Toyota Center not being open and missing out on all that revenue. So he was already this is before they had the bubble. So we were already looking at him saying this like, well, wait a minute, what's going on? What are we talking about here? Because we just traded Chris Paul away to get rid of some money. So you bring in Westbrook, you owe him $150 million. So with this happening and with D'Antoni saying, I'm gone, is because he can see the writing on the wall. They're getting ready to blow the team up. Now, how they're going to blow it up, we don't know. Because we don't know what coach they're going to bring in. There's different rumors. You got rumors about Sam Cassell. You got rumors about Mark Jackson. You got rumors about
Sam does need. He does need an opportunity. But go ahead.
Right. So you've got different rumors circulating, and so I think that if they keep Morey, which is still it's up for question, because now that their season is over, people are revisiting the China tweet and they're revisiting what he's cost the NBA and in terms of his general, activities. But, I think the bigger thing is that they're not going to be able to continue to run the small ball experiment with D'Antoni gone.
Okay.
I don't think they're going to be able to bring in another coach that's going to opt in for that system. Right. So I think depending on who the coach is, is going to determine how the team is going to get blown up. And I would say, just based on his performance in the playoff series, I would look for Russell Westbrook to be a trade chip.
Wow. So one and done. You don't get it done.
I mean, you have to understand, if you go back and look at this past playoff series, he single-handedly lost games 2 and 3 for the Rockets. And then it comes out that he was having issues with the coach about breaking plays and trying to take it to the rack and trying to do different things and not running the offense. And,
got it.
When you start having those kinds of, who are you going to bring in if you know that it's going to have to be a coach that can handle, let's say you got a certified, the leading scorer for the last 3 years in Harden.
Mm-hmm.
You got to have someone who knows what to do with that. I mean, at the end, everybody's mad at D'Antoni, but he created a monster in James Harden.
Yes, true. That's true. Everybody relies on him to create something, do everything. Yeah.
And so at the end of the day, what was exposed, it was that they didn't have anybody that could defend LeBron and AD. And when you can't pin your whole hope on a whole season and then have a glaring hole in what you're going to have to do to advance in that season, which is okay. You guys match up great with Golden State now, but they're not in the issue because Klay Thompson and Steph Curry are at the house right now.
Yeah,
you got to beat LeBron. You got to beat AD.
You got to beat, yeah.
And I think they overestimated the ability of team defense to overcome height.
Yeah.
And it worked the first game, and it actually worked the second and third game. But again, Russell Westbrook single-handedly was, I want to say he was 3 for 15 in games 2 and 3.
Wow.
With 9 turnovers in the fourth quarter.
3 for 15. What is,
right.
What?
And maybe shooting 50% from the free throw line. So at every point during games 2 and 3, because the Rockets, remember the Rockets were up in the fourth quarter in the first 3 games.
Wow. Yes, I do.
And literally, if you go back and look at, Westbrook's numbers and stats and look at how unproductive he was during those fourth quarters, you can absolutely point to his performance as the reason why the Rockets lost those 2 games. Now, if they win those 2 games, all of a sudden it's the greatest thing since sliced bread and get rid of the big man.
Right. That's right. And that's not what happened. You're right.
So what happened was when the Lakers made the adjustment that the one guy that we can't guard, we're going to double him as soon as he crosses the half-court line. And people were complaining with Harden about making the right basketball play. Well, what you do when you get double teamed is you pass out of the double team.
That's right.
But he's passing out to a Westbrook who's out of control, running to the lane, not getting the foul call, and they're sending people back the other way, or he's shooting the 3 and bricking, or you've got Eric Gordon. He did his thing in the first game, but in games 2 and 3, like I say, all the touches were off, everything was off because they came with that double team. And when you're counting on your best player to make the best basketball play, and he does, but the recipient of that great basketball play does not make a regular basketball play, you can't win.
Good. No, you can't. So here, my thing, Kid and K-Dub. Okay, so we've already got this powerhouse coming out. Actually, I'm going to say 2 powerhouses coming out of the West. So this is what I want you to do. I want you to do your champion of the East, your champion of the West, and ultimately the NBA champion. Okay.
I like Boston coming out of the East because of their length.
Got it.
And depth. Got it. Okay. Miami's they're a strong team defensive unit. Jimmy Butler is a stud. I just don't think they're going to be able to overcome Boston's length at all 5 positions.
Okay.
I think they're gonna eventually handle them. Coming out of the West, it's a toss up But I'll say this: if LeBron and AD are able to execute the 2-man game that they just executed against the Rockets, but they do it against Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, they deserve to come out of the West, and I think they deserve to win the chip.
So ultimately, whoever comes out the West is taking it all.
Right.
Okay.
I don't think Boston has the experience to handle either the Clippers or LA, if that's who it ends up being. Or, like I say, if Denver comes out, listen, Jokic and Jamal Murray are legit.
Yeah.
And with the Michael Porter dude becoming a legitimate third offensive option, you know, they would be in also in a better position, I think, to beat Boston as well. I think it would be a tougher challenge for Denver if they, you know, but the bottom line is if they beat the Clippers, they can beat Boston.
Okay.
If they can beat them after being down 3-1, yeah. They beat the Clippers 4 times in a row. Yeah, they can pretty much beat anybody at that point.
Now,
are you giving the Nuggets a chance here?
I'm hearing it. I'm hearing it a little bit.
Oh yeah, listen, if they had to play in the Staples Center, I give them no chance. But they're playing in the bubble. They're playing in the bubble. They have a chance in the bubble.
Everything changes in the bubble. You're right.
Everything because you don't. And I think that's also one of the kind of the weird things that we're not really recognizing how much the bubble and the lack of home court advantage is impacting the game. Because, you know, think about it. Historically, we've always seen kind of the bench players step up at home, right?
Mm-hmm.
But now you don't have that. It's just more straight up and down. So whatever you typically do during the regular season is kind of what's ending up on the court. So when you're playing at such a high level, and it's the little things that make that difference. I mean, the Clippers don't have that reservoir to lean on. They come in the same court they've been coming in for 3 months. So I give Denver more of a chance because of the bubble than I otherwise would.
Okay. So Night Watchman, who you got your money on?
I like the Lakers ultimately.
Okay.
It's kind of hard to go against, like you said, that 2-man game.
Yeah.
You know, and they obviously they proved they were very ready for the Rockets.
Mm-hmm.
You know. And
and
the Rockets were
playoff Rondo. Playoff Rondo showed up.
Right, he did show up, and sure enough, and almost like I didn't even see any cobwebs. The dude, he was looking fresh.
Right.
You know.
Right.
So
right.
So now Double G looks like he may be ready. Are you ready to join this conversation?
Look, I just got some 2020 equipment. I was working with some 1999 I apologize. I just came back from the bubble.
I was wondering, does B&H deliver on Sundays? Is that what you're telling me?
No, they definitely deliver on Sunday. You can't touch them on Saturday.
B&H has got the vaccine, so don't knock them. They may not use it, but they got it.
K-Dub has already foretold that we're looking at from the East. We're looking at Boston. Okay, from the West, he's giving a little toss up, but he is feeling an edge with LA Lakers. However, the Clippers and Denver could be that could be a deciding thing. Not sure. What's your take?
Well, look, I mean, you know, I was riding with the Clippers. I believed in Kawhi. I still think he's he's my favorite player when KD's not there. And you know, it's really, I mean, I was telling this to my brother yesterday. anybody who expected folks to walk into the bubble and just be an extension of where they were in the regular season was fooling themselves. And I think Milwaukee obviously got a slap in the face, and a hard slap. But more importantly, the problem with the Clippers all season has been about the fact that they haven't played together. These guys are still getting to know themselves, and even for Doc Rivers, even with his championship pedigree, figuring out what the right rotations are and having the right folks on the floor. And then you have your superstar Paul George, who hasn't shown up. He's shown up for one game. I mean, you can't win that way.
Yeah.
This is a situation where I've been impressed with the high level of play in the bubble. I mean, these guys. I mean, you're talking about the games between the Utah Jazz and Denver, folks shooting 50 points night after night.
Yeah.
Portland playing their way in and having the games they have. I mean, everybody has been exemplary, really. I think Milwaukee's been a disappointment. I'm sorry.
Phoenix went undefeated and got sent home.
Right. No, and that's the sad part is that they tried to play their way in and unfortunately didn't meet the bar. But that's the thing though. In the West, I mean, if you had half the teams in the West and the East, then this would be a different story. I mean, the East has always been, unfortunate. Even though with Kawhi, Toronto did what they did last year. But I'm riding with the Clippers. I can't believe they lost today. I really I thought that Doc would have them mentally prepared to do whatever was necessary, and they would find a way to do it. And let me just say, and I was telling once again to my brother, there hasn't been, total harmony as well on the team. I mean, folks had to get used to Kawhi's load management. That hasn't been received extremely well. People are getting what would be considered preferential treatment. But we know what Kawhi can produce because we've been seeing it. So I think Montrezl Harrell, Lou Williams hasn't played up to his standard. He's been a person you can rely on.
That's right.
To come off the bench and he's been throwing up bricks.
Damn.
Well, do you think that I think the length is an issue. I think as they progressed it through the round, it's like, well, now you're getting to the point where you have people who are physically exceptional.
Sure.
And the team defenses that we're seeing, I think, are also extraordinary.
No doubt.
And so when you start having kind of like defensive lapses, when you've got probably two of the top 5 perimeter defenders in the league,
right?
It's kind of it's a little scary.
Well, look, I mean,
I think defense is the thing you lean on, right? If your shot's not falling, you can still, exert energy on the defensive end. You can still crash the boards. You can still, run your guys off picks and do other things to help your team win. And so I think that now we were just talking about, I think if this were a home court, a traditional Staples Center home court, this is Clippers by 20.
Well, you know what? The only reason I'm going to say I'm going to disagree. Yes, I believe the home court has disadvantaged the top teams, no question. The lower seed teams, of course, are getting an equalizer in the fact that they don't have to deal with the home crowds of these top teams. But I'll just say this. I mean, look, this was an experiment in terms of what the Clippers have been trying to do. I mean, this wasn't a bona fide, okay, we just plug and play and everybody's going to get along. Pat Beverly, who is a top defender as well.
Yes, he is.
Right.
Yeah.
He was missing until this round. So, the mere fact that, Lou Williams felt like he needed to go to the strip club and get some wings, I mean, that's not cool. I mean, bottom line is you can't. Hey, look, I get it. I mean, I have passion for the brother, but I'm just saying. And you guys have probably heard that other guy, Daniel House, whoever this clown is.
Oh man, listen, bro.
What was he drinking on the rock? I never saw the brother play, so I didn't even know who the heck he was.
No, look, that's what makes it so bad. That Daniel House was absolutely an integral piece coming off the bench.
Wow.
I couldn't pick him out of a lineup. I don't know if his family could.
He absolutely. Look, that 12-6 that he didn't, plus his defensive presence was absolutely missed. He's absolutely someone who, had he been there, those last 2 games are a lot closer.
Well, I mean,
and then like I say, clearly he messed up because we, in Houston, we all follow everybody's social media,
Right.
and Daniel House's wife has already posted on social media, "You reap what you sow."
Wow.
So he's facing.
So she's in divorce court right now.
He's in divorce court. Look, James Harden called him a tremendous disappointment. So his teammates are showing no love. He's coming home to a hotel room.
Gentlemen, I'm backing up for 1 second because Keith, I have not been reading social media, so give me the backstory.
Okay, so he was.
It's only an hour show, Curtis.
Right. So real quick, he was caught violating the bubble protocol.
Okay.
And
he left the bubble to do something.
No, he didn't leave the bubble.
Brought somebody into the bubble.
Somebody came into the bubble, and it may have actually been one of the COVID testers. So there is a photo of there is a photo of her out there, and she's a very attractive lady.
Hilarious. That's hilarious.
But what he tried to say was that it didn't happen. But we all know that they've got the cameras. But what we didn't know is they have door data. So
for
this segment,
not only did they have the cameras, but they were able to identify exactly how long she was in the room, when she came in, when she left, and ultimately this is why he had to sit down, because even though in his mind he's thinking, well, how could I violate the protocol when I'm with the tester? Because clearly she had to be tested before she came. It was probably some of the most ignorant logic that he could have possibly used at this point in time.
Wait, Daniel, this guy's acting like he's never been in a hotel before. Are you kidding me? There are cameras everywhere. I mean,
right.
Are you serious? That's ridiculous. I mean, I was telling a friend earlier, she was like, well, she could have been a fan, or she could have been, maybe she was dressed up in housekeeping. I'm like, it doesn't make a difference what she was. There are cameras in the elevator, as Ray Rice knows. There are cameras in the hallways. I mean, there's everywhere. And there's extra security there by the NBA.
Exactly.
They're looking at those camera footage all the time. That's just crazy.
Right.
So then thus, Double G, your comment in terms of divorce court and whatnot. So literally, this is something that caught his wife amiss. She didn't know what the hell was happening, and she's now making the comments.
I just found out about this story today. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kate.
So what we understand to have happened is that he may have denied it at first to the league and to the team and to his wife, and then they kind of came back and were like, "Nah, bro."
That's right.
Because what happened was the first game 3 that he was held out of, they said it was for personal reasons. So I'm pretty sure that through the course of his wife reaching out to him saying, well, what are the personal reasons? And he came up with something that wasn't actually the truth.
He had to go get some wings.
Wow.
So, and they kept, because of his initial denial, of course, they had to go back and dot their I's and cross their T's and come back to him and be like, okay, not only do we know, but here's how we know, and we're going to have to ask you to leave, right now.
Look, I'm sorry. He's too stupid to get this much conversation. I'm going to have to defer and just say, he's not that valuable. Houston, I know you were talking about Houston earlier. I'll just say, and I love Russell Westbrook. I love James Harden. Russell is just too stubborn. He is, for a minute
to change his game and adapt to a new system.
And but he did. He changed his game. He stopped taking threes. He was driving to the basket. I mean, he's Energizer Bunny. The guy never gets tired.
That's true.
He's a rebound machine when he's committed to the lane. But he started trying to shoot threes again just because he wanted to be one of the fellas. And it's like, stop it. Stop doing that. And I know D'Antoni's just pulling out his fingernails, wondering, what do I got to do? I mean, you want him on the floor because he's an absolute asset. But when he starts shooting, and look, if he shoots foul shots, if he shoots jumpers from the elbow, fine. But when you start shooting 20-footers and 3-pointers, that's a lose for them.
Okay.
And when he
it wasn't the threes that killed it. It was the turnovers. It was
and
the
that
time.
too. And that too. I'm sorry. Yes,
You
you're
know,
right.
because what he got frustrated because people were saying stop shooting the threes, and so what he tried to do, he tried to go in there 1-on-3 every time. And
Right.
when he didn't get the call, he sit there and argue with the ref and leave the other 4 guys on the
Right.
hook
Exactly.
to play 5-on-4. So when you can start counting those up in the 15 times a game that's happening, it's like, well, it doesn't matter how they've constructed the team to try to help him and Harden maximize their unique skills. If he's not going to buy in and opt in and be like, well, I know you think you can shoot threes, but Harden shoots threes better than you. One of y'all has to give up the 3. Okay, he has to give it, but he does it begrudgingly. And so now you can just see that stubborn nature when he decides that, okay, I'm going to the rack. And I'm not necessarily going to make the best basketball play. I'm going to make the play that's going to work for me.
Well, the sad part is if he actually hits a 3, then he thinks he has license to shoot us more,
Right.
and that's almost worse than just missing it from the jump. But yeah, I don't know. We haven't gotten to tennis yet, right? So
no, well, we touched on for a second. So here's my thing as it relates to tennis, right? And we talked a bit about Naomi, but here's my thing. I'm throwing it out there.
Did I miss that? I'm sorry.
Yeah, you were having the technical difficulties.
No,
but having
I got Althea on, baby.
Don't worry. We're gonna get to that.
Go back to it.
So I'm throwing this out. I'm throwing this out there. So we know that Serena, she's not a spring chicken, especially as it relates to sports, right?
Damn.
So yes, I went there.
Tough.
But having said that, we see that well, hopefully I don't meet her on some dark alley because she makes it. But I don't want that.
Unnecessary. Unnecessary.
Well, knowing or whatnot that she's 1 win away from the tie. What do you think? What say you, Double G?
Well, I mean, look, I think there's a couple of things, but mainly the mere fact that anyone's giving credibility to this 24 that comes from a woman who played basically her cousins for about 10 years in the Australian Open back in the dark ages is just a joke. The level of competition was like, I mean, they didn't even have people who nobody came to Australia. I mean, she's playing against her home country women or whatever. Those 11 championships should be downgraded to like 3 at best. So the mere fact that Serena's chasing a title that really shouldn't stand, and no one really is going to give, and I'm forgetting the woman's name now. It's sad. I'm sorry.
Margaret Court.
Margaret Court. No one's going to give Margaret Court really the banner of greatest of all time because of her 24. But I understand it. Serena feels it's within her grasp, and it is. I mean, she's the only person who's been to 4 finals and a semifinal in the last 2 years. So she can get there. I've had a lot of discussion with tennis friends about whether Patrick Mouratoglou is still breaking through in terms of his coaching. Does she need another voice? Is it something where the comfort level is too high and it's not working in the sense that there's a chance someone else might be able to get her to see things a little differently and get her up to speed quicker. Now, she was playing into shape coming into this U.S. Open. The positives are that she was moving her feet, getting in and out of corners, and I think she's actually going to make some noise at Roland Garros in the French. She's won 3 of those, and I think that comes up in less than 2 weeks. So I think she'll do well there. I'm almost glad that she didn't meet Osaka in the finals just because of what went down 2 years ago.
Right.
And I almost think they might put Carlos Ramos back in the chair just to mess with her because they've done everything else. So I wouldn't put it past them. But I think what's more than key, and I'm sorry if I'm rehashing what you guys have already gone through. Osaka is the face of tennis. She's the face of Nike. And I mean, she has always been an authentic voice, even at 18 and 19 years old, when she won her first Grand Slam a few years ago. People just have a hard time understanding how soft-spoken and genteel she can appear.
Correct.
She's a killer on the court. She wants to take your head off. That is what she said. and I believe her. I mean, she's made it clear that that's how she operates, and much like Venus, she doesn't suffer fools gladly, and more importantly, don't mistake my kindness for weakness. That is something, and well, I should say even more important than that, she's not willing to extend the narrative to befriend the commentators and the reporters. You know, I don't know if you guys talked about her putting Tom Rinaldi in check.
No.
In that interview, yeah.
I did not see that. Give me a quick synopsis.
Oh no, I mean, well, the quick synopsis is, you know, and Tom has been, I'm not gonna say reluctant, but he's only posed the social justice question at the very end, kind of his line of questioning. So at the very end, he kind of came back to the same refrain all week and saying, well, what are you hoping to, you know, convey? What's the message you want to send by wearing these masks? And she looked at him like, oh, there's some shade coming, so, you know, be ready. But no, she basically said, what have you learned, Tom? I mean, seriously? I mean, I already told you 6 previous times I brought 7 masks, and this is my 7th time saying that I hope people will investigate who these folks are, learn about their personal lives, and find out why this criminal activity must end. This is, I mean, it's egregious. It's you know, it's despicable. We know what's been going on. And I don't know if you guys have caught any of the production earlier that week where Sabrina Fulton, Trayvon Martin's mother, and Ahmaud Arbery's father spoke to her by video and really thanked her from the bottom of the heart. I mean, it was,
excellent.
I had the Kleenex out. I mean, she said she was on the verge of tears. It was a very, very special moment. And the saddest part of all of it, I just have to bring it back since we started kind of talking about Serena, is just that, you know, and I've heard this from people who've worked extensively with her personally, that, you know, she's been in a bubble herself, and she's a bit of a diva, and Serena's the best. She's greatest in terms of things that she's done. The U.S. Open wouldn't have happened if she didn't sign on early and say she was going to play. The tournament wouldn't have happened. If she had shut that down, it wasn't going to happen. So you have to give her credit on all of those fronts. She does have a problem, though, sharing the stage with these up-and-comers. And specifically Naomi Osaka, who is now obviously denied her a championship and is now really ended up being maybe her foremost opponent. So, you know, trying to give, when they asked the question to Serena in press conference, hey, what do you think about Naomi's stance and her you know, her protests? And Serena gave, you know, unfortunately, kind of a milquetoast. Well, you know, that works for her, fine. You know, I'm a more spiritual person. And it just was disappointing. And I love Serena, so I hate to even go there, but it's real. And Naomi is not, she's not kowtowing to any brand. She's about to set Nike on fire because if you don't know who her boyfriend is, that brother's real.
The man.
He's giving her, he's getting her up on game, giving her books.
Putting her on another. Yeah, they're quite a power couple, actually.
They're getting ready to take Jay-Z and Beyonce right off the map.
Right, they're the new thing. They're
for real.
They're the new thing right
Corday is on lock. He's got it going on.
Right,
he's got it going on. Even though he did do a little upstage at the trophy presentation, which got a little out of hand. But
well, you know what I'm going to say about that. Yeah. I'm at the point now to where all of these norms that people are the unwritten rules about how people are supposed to act, and how you're supposed to feel, and how the people that love you are supposed to feel when you win.
Right.
I'm of the frame of mind, I'm not interested in those rules anymore. It's the same thing. It's the same thing in baseball right now. So Fernando Tatis, who is a legitimate MVP candidate this year for the San Diego Padres, is a classic bat flipper. I mean, this guy he's a right-handed bat flipper, which is the most ugly thing ever. But you have to be a really good right-handed hitter to be able to flip your bat. And so there's been this, that unwritten rules kind of thing going, and it's like enough of that because we know what the history of that is.
Well, the only thing I was going to say, Kay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump in on that. I just wanted to finish the thought with his, because what he did on the court during that presentation it wasn't anything really egregious. The
Right.
unfortunate part of it is that it is her time to shine, though. I mean, she wasn't necessarily. I don't think she had a problem with it. I mean, it wasn't anything. You know, he was just rubbing his hands and kind of giving her some words. I mean, we couldn't hear what he was saying, but you know, he just is just the fact that, you know, you do. And he's a young buck, and you know, YBN, if you don't know what it means, is young boss niggas. And you know,
well, he's officially not YBN anymore too. So he just
since when?
Just Corday now.
Oh, go ahead. When did that happen? I'm sorry, because I'm
This
just getting.
This happened early, like in January.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
That whole crew is disbanded. They're no longer, and he's
okay.
He's one deep. He's just Corday now. And
Oh,
like I say, it's all part of this gradual. He's transitioning into who he is.
Right. No doubt.
Gotcha.
Well, he was always the bars guy anyway. I mean, he was
he was always the guy with the bars. He's got the cadence. He's got the delivery.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And ultimately, what we're finding out is he also has the personality. Right.
Oh yeah.
Well,
that was the thing. I mean, I'm sorry. Go ahead, please.
So that's kind of, you know, I mean, just to wrap that up and say, not that he did anything wrong or that.
No.
But I think there's and they're right. There is the impression of what us on the outside are looking at, right?
Sure.
We're looking at it and what does it look like to us? But I think that the filters that we judge things on in terms of what we expect from our athletes and from our celebrities, you know, it has been impacted by things that we never agreed to.
Sure.
Gotcha.
Well, I'll just say I was telling friends she won what I consider the Black Lives Matter Open. That was and she really rightfully was the only person who should have won, because she came there with the mindset and the goal to make a difference, and she talked about openly how supporting those families and supporting this activism and this movement was motivational. She was playing for more than just her own trophy.
Right.
Absolutely.
And that was a beautiful thing to see and hear. And unfortunately, you don't hear that enough from the people you would hope to hear that from, sadly. And so that's, I mean, just to put a button on the Open. The last thing I'll just say is, and I don't know if I spoke about this earlier with Bob, but she's changing Japan. This woman is changing the culture of Japanese people and their relationship to biracial and different people, especially Black folks. Yeah. And they're starting to, if you listen to, and my brother laughed at me because I said I listened to the Japanese press question her. And he said, why are you listening to the Japanese press? Because she answers in English. So I know what they're asking.
Absolutely.
And I've heard them enough to know some of the language, and I know what they're talking about. But yeah, I mean, I just want to say, she is having an impact that has just starting. I mean, she's had Colin Kaepernick and Kobe Bryant in her box. It's not about foo-foo, she, you know, the young, you know, all the stars. And look, there's nothing against Beyonce or Tiger Woods or Jay or anybody else who's been, you know, in Serena's box. But she's a different cut. And she talks about her Haitian background now proudly, and how her father and that whole, she said, that's what we do in terms of resistance and protest. That is like 200,000 miles away from where they thought this girl was 2 years ago. Yeah, and it's setting things on fire. And because she's authentic, you can't say anything against it. And they got to get rid of Renee Stubbs. It's time for the McEnroes to go. It's time for Chris Everett to go. All of that old established BS needs to be gone.
Right.
Speaking of which, it's almost time for us to go too.
I'm sorry. well, you know what?
Glenn, it was 45 minutes.
This watch doesn't work anymore. It stopped.
So, Night Watchman, I definitely got to ask K-Dub this one thing. So, knowing that, of course, his father, who made the championship New York Yankees of the 90s, and no one can say anything else. He is responsible for putting them on the freaking map. Right. How would your pops, if he were around, how would he address, let's say, the lack of Black young ball players getting into the major leagues? And
Well,
I am
let's
not
say
talking
this-
about Dominicans. I'm not talking about Puerto Ricans, Venezuelans. I'm talking about African Americans.
Let's just acknowledge this is the 100th anniversary of the Negro Leagues.
Okay.
Right, absolutely.
Okay.
Now, the thing that he always felt was that, you know, the whole reviving baseball in the inner cities concept was something that he was very passionate about.
Nice.
Because at the end of the day, we have
He
always
should have been running it. He should have been running it. I'm sorry.
Well, he did. He started it.
He started.
He
it,
started.
Right,
Uh-huh.
Right. He opened the first,
right.
youth academy. They did the youth academy that's here in Houston.
Yeah.
He was absolutely hands-on in that regard, but because he had other responsibilities, he couldn't just do that 24 hours a day.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
So he laid down the template for people to follow, and that's probably what he would be most disappointed about, is that people have not followed the template that he's laid down, and he's done it on multiple fronts. There's actually another organization called the Bat Foundation, which is the baseball assistance team, which all they do is take care of not just on the field personnel, but anybody who's ever worked for a baseball team can, whether you're the lands, the groundskeeper, front office, concessions, you worked in parking for your baseball team, you can call the baseball assistant team and you can ask for a grant and they'll help you.
Well, they
That's
should
what
have
my
been
dad put together.
Negro Leaguers, but anyway, that's another story. Sorry.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, but my dad did the same thing for Bob McKendrick. Like I can't speak to what other people have or haven't done.
Oh, sure.
But what I can tell you is that Bob Watson laid down a game plan that whoever is responsible for making things happen, it's not because they don't have a plan that they can execute, because he laid down the foundation across multiple areas of the world of baseball for that to be accomplished. Now, is it in the same way that the Negro League tends to suffer by not having the participation of black ball players and other black, black celebrities?
Yep.
We make things hot. We're the tastemakers.
No question.
So when things are not hot, we have to look at ourselves. We don't go to other people to decide what or figure out what's hot. We make it hot.
Right.
We make it what people want to gravitate towards. So it's something that, whether it's on platforms like these or other media platforms, film, radio, TV, television, internet programming, these are the types of things that need to be, spoken about and need to be, put out for people to have a much clearer understanding of what's actually taking place and how can they help and how can they benefit, or even how can they receive benefit if they're someone who is the target of a baseball assistance team or an RBI foundation or any of these other.
K-Dub, can I ask you a quick question, because you know so much about this? Why have people like Kyler Murray, Jameis Winston, even Patrick Mahomes, all of these great two-sport players all decided to go play football?
Okay, so there are a lot of things that go into that. Probably I would say the biggest thing is that there's the Madden culture.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Has, whether we want to admit it or not, the amount of time that kids spend outside has been limited by the access to video games.
Wow.
Okay. Wow. So to play baseball, you got to have a bunch, even if you're going to play stickball and use baseball skill sets. That's not, unless you're going to throw the ball up against the wall and play catch with yourself, that's about the only thing you can do by yourself to develop a baseball skill set. With football, you can run, lift weights, you can do all kinds of things. And then if you can just find one friend, you guys can play catch and you can do whatever you can work on if you're a ball, offensive player or defense, whatever. But there is that component of people not going outside, and baseball is just not popular because of the amount of time and energy and effort it takes to put together a real baseball game.
But considering how effective and popular Bo Jackson and Deion Sanders were playing both sports, it's amazing to me that these other guys who have shown obviously a propensity, and Russell Wilson, they've all gotten contracts even from.
Well, I think, but then you look at the position. It's a position thing too, because remember, football is a much more violent sport. And you look at what the position that Bo Jackson played and the position that Deion Sanders played versus, say, a quarterback or someone who's more valuable. Right. It wouldn't make much sense for a Russell Wilson or a Patrick Mahomes to dig in and get nailed in their right elbow by a 95-mile-an-hour fastball.
Okay, I'll leave it there. Bob, take it away.
Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us in the Soul Lounge. It was a rousing discussion on all sorts of fronts. And
well, bottom line, Night Watchman, we're going to have them back. And we're going to have them back, especially with Double G, making sure that his technical difficulties, now that he made the purchase of B&H, so he should be good for next round.
I think we need to check with Verizon for him, though.
Get out and vote, and
that's right.
The killers of Breonna.
Right.
Vote and fill out the census. Yeah,
that's right.
For sure.
And Breonna, there's been some movement on Breonna Taylor, right?
That's right.
There has been, yes. And as they say, know their name, say their name.
No question.
Yes.
We're going to say our name one more. This is the Night Watchman and DJ Leroy, K-Dub, and the OG Double G right here in Soul Lounge, primetime 90.3 FM, WHCR, the voice of Harlem. You can find us, of course, on YouTube and Facebook and all sorts of other platforms.
That's right.
Check us out next week, every Monday night.
That's it. Peace. That's it.